We don't know exactly why some flu strains are much more severe than others and why some of them would be more likely to kill people or cause very severe disease.
What is particular about avian and pandemic viruses is that they replicate deep inside our lungs. When our cells detect this and trigger a very strong innate immune response, this leads to an influx of white blood cells and fluids into our lungs, and it restricts the amount of airspace that we have to breathe.
In the realm of infectious diseases, a pandemic is the worst-case scenario. When an epidemic spreads beyond a country's borders, that's when the disease officially becomes a pandemic. The most recent example of a pandemic is the spread of COVID-19, commonly known as coronavirus. However, diseases have spread among human populations throughout history. How often do pandemics happen? And what are the worst epidemics and pandemics? Before we answer these questions, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as new videos are uploaded. Throughout the course of history, disease outbreaks have ravaged humanity, sometimes changing the course of history and at times signaling the end of entire civilizations. Disease and illnesses have plagued humanity since the earliest days, our mortal flaw. However, it is not until the marked shift to agrarian communities that the scale and spread of these diseases increased dramatically. Widespread trade created new opportunities for human and animal interactions that sped up such epidemics. Malaria, tuberculosis, leprosy, influenza, smallpox, and others first appeared during these early years. The more civilized humans became, with larger cities, more exotic trade routes, and increased contact with different populations of people, animals, and ecosystems, the more likely pandemics would occur. Animals carry some viruses that rarely spread to humans. Sometimes these viruses can mutate and become transmissible to and between people. When an animal virus first passes to humans, health authorities focus on it as a potential pandemic. The transmission indicates that a virus is mutating and might become highly contagious and harmful. Swine flu and avian flu are viral diseases that were common in pigs and birds, respectively, but not humans. This changed once an antigenetic shift occurred. In recent years, there's also been concern about viruses that experts have linked to camels, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome or MERS-CoV, and monkeys, Ebola. A new virus strain or subtype that easily transmits between humans can cause a pandemic. Bacteria that becomes resistant to antibiotic treatment may also be behind the rapid spread. Sometimes pandemics occur when new diseases develop the ability to spread rapidly, such as the Black Death or bubonic plague. A pandemic affects a higher number of people and can be more deadly than an epidemic. It can also lead to more social disruption, economic loss, and general hardship on a wider scale. A wide array of hosts can carry and transmit disease, including insects, rodents, livestock, wildlife, and of course, humans. Many different factors can contribute to the emergence of a pandemic, and some of these factors have fueled an increased occurrence of pandemics in the 20th and 21st centuries. In particular, the disruption of natural biodiversity, increased human-to-human contact in cities, and increased global travel have increased the spread of disease. The worst pandemics, epidemics. Number 1. Prehistoric Epidemic, circa 3000 BC. About 5,000 years ago, an epidemic wiped out a prehistoric village in China. The bodies of the dead were stuffed inside a house that was later burned down. No age group was spared, as the skeletons of juveniles, young adults, and middle-aged people were found inside the house. The archaeological site is now called Hamin Manga and is one of the most preserved prehistoric sites in northeastern China. Archaeological and anthropological study indicates that the epidemic happened quickly enough that there was no time for proper burials, and the site was not inhabited again. Before the discovery of Hamin Manga, another prehistoric mass burial that dates to roughly the same time period was found at a site called Maojingou in northeastern China. Together, these discoveries suggest that an epidemic ravaged the entire region. Number 2. The Black Death, 1346 to 1353. Around 1346 to 1353, an outbreak of the plague ravaged Europe, Africa, and Asia, with an estimated death toll between 75 and 200 million people. Thought to have originated in Asia, the plague most likely jumped continents via the fleas living on the rats that so frequently lived aboard merchant ships. Ports, being major urban centers at the time, were the perfect breeding ground for the rats and fleas, and thus the insidious bacterium flourished, devastating 3 continents in its wake. Number 3. The Great Plague of London, 1665. In another devastating appearance, the bubonic plague led to the death of 20% of London's population. As human death tolls mounted and mass graves appeared, hundreds of thousands of cats and dogs were slaughtered as the possible cause, and the disease spread through ports along the Thames. The worst of the outbreak tapered off in the fall of 1666, around the same time as another destructive event, the Great Fire of London. Number 4. First cholera pandemic, 1817. The first of 7 cholera pandemics over the next 150 years. This wave of the small intestine infection originated in Russia, where 1 million people died. Spreading through feces-infested water and food, the bacterium was passed along to British soldiers, who brought it to India, where millions more died. The reach of the British Empire and its navy spread cholera to Spain, Africa, Indonesia, China, Japan, Italy, Germany, and America, where it killed 150,000 people. A vaccine was created in 1885, but pandemics continued. Number 5. Flu pandemic, 1889 to 1890. In the modern industrial age, new transport links made it easier for influenza viruses to wreak havoc. In just a few months, the disease spanned the globe, killing 1 million people. It took just 5 weeks for the epidemic to reach peak mortality. The earliest cases were reported in Russia. The virus spread rapidly throughout St. Petersburg before it quickly made its way throughout Europe and the rest of the world, despite the fact that air travel didn't exist yet. Number 6. Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920. An estimated 500 million people from the South Seas to the North Pole fell victim to the Spanish flu. 1/5 of those died, with some indigenous communities pushing to the brink of extinction. The flu spread and lethality was enhanced by the cramped conditions of soldiers and poor wartime nutrition that many people were experiencing during World War I. Despite the name Spanish flu, the disease likely did not start in Spain. Spain was a neutral nation during the war and did not enforce strict censorship of its press, which could therefore freely publicize early accounts of the illness. As a result, people falsely believed the illness was specific to Spain, and the name Spanish flu struck. There was also other well-known pandemics such as the Asian flu, 1957 to 58, AIDS pandemic and epidemic in 1981 to the present day, H1N1, swine flu pandemic, 2009 to 2010. But we're going to talk about the most recent pandemic, which is COVID-19. Number 7, COVID-19. On March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that the COVID-19 virus was officially a pandemic after barreling through 114 countries in 3 months and infecting over 118,000 people. And the spread wasn't anywhere near finished. COVID-19 is caused by a novel coronavirus, a new coronavirus strain that has not been previously found in people. Symptoms include respiratory problems, fever and cough, and can lead to pneumonia and death. Like SARS, it spread through droplets from sneezes. The first reported case in China appeared November 17, 2019 in the Hubei province, but went unrecognized. 8 more cases appeared in December, with researchers pointing to an unknown virus. Many learned about COVID-19 when ophthalmologist Dr. Li Wenliang defied government orders and released safety information to other doctors. The following day, China informed WHO and charged Li with a crime. Li died from COVID-19 just over a month later. Without a vaccine available, the virus spread beyond Chinese borders to nearly every country in the world. By December 2020, it had infected more than 75 million people and led to more than 1.6 million deaths worldwide. The number of new cases was growing faster than ever, with more than 500,000 reported each day on average. And that's it for today's video. Don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and tell us what you want to see next in the comment section below.